Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, good morning. I'm going to walk you through today how I am become programmer. Essentially, I want to clue you in on why on earth you would want to do what I have done as kind of a life and career path, and the pros, the cons, and how you get here. A brief overview of what I have become so far. I have done a variety of internships throughout my academic career. I've worked at MNP, IBM, and currently I work at a little startup based out of San Francisco called Wise Assistant, and that's been quite fun. In addition to that, I am active in quite a few clubs at U Ottawa. I am the lead programmer and I guess head of the web development team for UOE Racing, but primarily the motor controller developer. I'm the webmaster at IEEE Ottawa, and I also participate in an open source project that is going quite well as well. I have currently been given a 2-year contract for a full-time position at IBM after I finish my schooling. So that's awfully nice in this tumultuous time of, job insecurity and all that. Really, the long and short of it is, if you want stable employment that allows you to work anywhere in the world, wherever you want to live, if you want to live with family, if you want to live on a beach, it's all down to you, then you might want to consider being a computer programmer in some capacity. Now, there are definitely tiers to programming. But it may surprise you just how little programming you actually need to know to be a programmer, quote unquote. So how did I get here, you ask? Well, firstly, you need to be a very honest person if you want to survive in any industry, but people will really see your value if you can actually perform and use the frameworks and tools that you say you are able to use. In this industry, there are plenty of bullshitters and people who will say that they are one thing, but they get on the job and they're not actually able to do them. And I've seen people like that get fired in as short as a week. And that was actually during my first internship. So that was just a little bit scary. But honesty is definitely number one on, I think, moving up through any industry, but certainly through mine, it helps a lot. Point B is genuine interest in whatever you're going to end up using. If you're not, of course you're going to scream if you're going to scream to the sky once in a while saying, "Oh dear God, why have you created this abominable, terrible thing?" But 90% of the time, you should be pretty happy with what you do. As a wise man once said, you also need to be relatively monomaniacal. If you choose this as a career, like any career, you need to be 100% committed and dedicated to doing just this, programming, most of the day, every day. Otherwise, you're never going to rise above, the rest of the rando anons out there, and you're never going to really make your mark on the world. If you want a good job in programming, you will need to work hard at it. And if that's, we'll get to career paths later in the video. So another big question is, do I need to go to school to get a good programming job? And I would say the answer is definitely no. But, and this is a big but, school does provide an excellent method to give you a framework in which you can grind for hours and hours on relatively meaningless projects. And you learn to grind at school, essentially. Now, there are definitely a few useful courses that will teach you how to think in a way that will really help you with programming. Computer architecture courses are fantastic for this. programming courses obviously are helpful for helping you think like a programmer. And you'll be forced to, hopefully during your academic tenure, you'll be forced to have an encounter with philosophy and literature. And as much as people will dismiss it, ethics in programming is ridiculously important, considering we now have, Google building the largest supercomputer ever based on, they're trying to build a hive mind with nodes as us people. Google is basically Nerve from Neon Genesis Evangelion. But that aside, ethics is pretty important. You definitely want to keep your book of morals around when you're programming, to just keep in mind that you are making things for people. You're not trying to make things to exploit people, because it is very easy just to say, okay, let's just collect everything. But back to school. School really only matters as a gauntlet of sorts. It'll teach you how to grind on work that you don't necessarily want to complete for hours and hours, and that's very useful in programming, because once in a while you'll come upon a task that will take you, they'll say, okay, this should take a few days, but then you dig in a little more, the complexity grows exponentially, and you end up having to grind for 2 weeks on this absolutely mind-numbingly complicated and convoluted task. Yeah, that'll happen sometimes. And school will teach you how to get through those, and no employer will appreciate you more than the employer that you do something like that for. Like, that is an incredibly valuable skill, the ability to sit down and grind through problems. I had to learn this the hard way during my internship at IBM. I was, at that point in time, I was a bit more of a theoretical programmer, let's say. I liked to design top-down, so I would want to have the final vision for the program completely kind of specced out and ready, and then I would start building from the largest components down to the smallest components. My other teammates, well, one other teammate in particular, he would just charge full speed ahead on whatever task he was given. He would build from the bottom up, and he would just try to get working part after working part after working part connected. And I would say and he was able to deliver far more than I did during that internship. And because of that, I recognized the value of bottom-up design over top-down design in a time crunch. Obviously, you can never use one or the other entirely, but you need to be able to grind in any career, but it's especially appreciated in programming. All right, so what do you need to do to actually get some sort of a programming job? So I would say you need to, first of all, you need to start programming now, and you need to practice for about a year before you'll know enough little things to be useful somewhere. But that's really only half the battle. As long as you know, web development, I would say, is the easiest thing to get into. As long as you know a good amount of JavaScript and HTML and CSS, and you can program like a simple backend and a simple front end, and you can just prove that you can understand essentially how everything is working, even if it's a small set of things. If you can demonstrate that you understand the mechanisms and how that whole system works, people will be glad to hire you. But only if you learn, point number 2, how to be articulate. Now, programming in and of itself, the actual act of programming is, it's really only half of your job or less. The other half of your job is communicating what you know, communicating what you're going to do, and collaborating with other people on your team to ensure that you're, at the end of the day, able to form a cohesive whole of a product, and you're able to ship that to a client. So communication, learning how to communicate, is numero uno, really. And how can you learn that? Well, debate club. Well, you learn a communication by communicating, essentially. So you can work with your friends on dumb projects. You can join a debate club. You can, I don't know, man, just talk. But talk in a situation where you're needing to convey something to someone else. And I would say that if you really grind for a year, and it's okay if you're working part-time at Starbucks or something, but if you really grind learning JavaScript and HTML and CSS for a year, you can easily become a shitty web developer. And from there, you can climb the ladder. You can continue to learn. You can become more and more important and get better and better jobs. And eventually, you will be a success. Oh, bye, Faithy. Here, I'll let you out. So, I suppose one final note would be something a very wise man once said. When you're young, when you're a bright-eyed young kiddo, you have the equivalent of a huge heaping pile of cash, just like the Joker in the Dark Knight films. You've got this huge, gigantic heaping pile of cash behind you, and that cash is representative of time, actually. When you're young, you have so much time to burn and learn and explore, and your mind is just so malleable. You can learn things really quick. And so when you're young, I do recommend learning as much as you possibly can in as many fields as you can, and then picking one. If that one thing is programming, congratulations and welcome to the club. And if it's not, good on you. And I hope you are a success in whatever domain you choose. But it's important that you actually do that. It's important that you don't spend your time as you age continuing to focus on a large variety of little things, because no one will pay you for being mediocre at something. People pay you for being the best at something, or at least good. And to become good at something, you need to focus basically exclusively on that thing. You can't be a jack of all trades and expect to be important. And I suppose that's my final bit of advice to you. If you want to become a programmer, you need to dedicate yourself to it, and you need to grind on it basically 100% of the time. And I'm not saying not to have, a work-life harmony. That's probably one of the best things about programming, is that you can have a work-life harmony. You can, lock yourself in a room, do this for 8 hours a day, and then after that, you can go and enjoy dinner with your family and watch movies. And, once the world opens back up, I'm sure you can enjoy the nightlife in whatever city you're in. How long are we at here? But that balance is very valuable. Oh, shit. I'm at work. I think that's all for this video. Stay sharp and stay on the path. Ryan out.